Suits or The Good Wife?
Suits, obviously.
Great answer. Cigarettes or gum?
Gum now, baby.
Gum. White House or Buckingham Palace?
White House, just because Buckingham Palace looks like it would take a really long time to mow.
Okay, fair enough.
A lot of upkeep.
Queen or the Queen?
The Queen.
Okay, good answer again. The Rock or Chris Rock?
That's an interesting question. I like them both.
Slip and slide or electric slide?
Electric slide. That's my generation.
Fantastic answer. And lastly, your last $5, buy a burger or buy a lottery ticket?
It depends on how good the burger is.
Wow, there's a guest host. As a matter of interest, Prince Harry and I are identical twins, separated at birth. Hard-hitting topics there. President Obama giving his first sit-down interview since leaving office. The former president giving that interview to His Royal Highness. Obama spoke quite a bit about himself, but he also took an indirect yet very clear shot at President Trump, blasting leaders, he says, are warping public discourse via social media.
The question, I think, really has to do with how do we harness this technology in a way that allows a multiplicity of voices, allows a diversity of views, but doesn't lead to a balkanization of our society, but rather continues to promote ways of finding common ground. Mm-hmm. And all of us in leadership have to find ways in which we can recreate a common space on the internet.
Wendy Osefo is an education professor. Wendy, putting aside the idea of a president talking to a prince about how it's the rest of us who are living in danger of living in a bubble, what do you think he was getting at here? Was it a shot at Trump, or was it a more general observation?
It was a more general observation. Right now, the current climate, not just in our country, but overseas as well, is one where everything is volatile, and people need to be mindful, especially those in power, of the decisions that they make. And that's what Obama was speaking to, and I think is a poignant point, especially right now.
Well, isn't there a danger, though, in world leaders, the establishment, the elite, saying everything would be better if we didn't have balkanized multiple voices? When the internet started, one of the great things it did was it freed people from the default setting of mainstream media, which is surely liberal. That's surely the bubble, isn't it?
It's not necessarily the bubble, and I wouldn't say that mainstream media is liberal. That's not true. Look at the network that we're on right here. So again, you know, when we try to make those type of narratives and we try to make those overarching statements, that exactly negates what he's trying to say there. You know, mainstream media, at the end of the day, has a level of responsibility, and our leaders, our elected officials, have a tantamount level of responsibility, and they need to make sure that everything they're doing and the policies that they're set forth is not just one that impacts their own bubble, but impacts all of us as citizens.
What about the idea that beyond the media, the default setting of our society now, by which I mean not just media, but motion pictures, churches, schools, the default setting of our society is essentially liberal. If you go to school, you'll learn essentially the liberal view on climate change. If you go to church, you'll get the liberal view on climate change. What's wrong with balkanizing that just a little?
I reject that premise. I don't believe it's the liberal view. I actually think it's the popular view. And that's something that conservatives have to start to accept. It's not necessarily that there's a war against people who are conservative or who have right-leaning ideologies. It's more so that overall, when we look at issues, they tend to lean on the left side. And that's just the truth of the matter. We cannot negate the fact that the popular view often leans to the left. That does not negate, you know, individuals who are conservative by any means. And what's really important here, if I could just underscore this, is that Americans need allies. The United States needs allies. But the volatile behavior of President Trump makes that increasingly more difficult. So we need to start addressing that as well.
Well, we'll see who winds up sitting at in the third row at Prince Harry's wedding on that one, Wendy. The magazine Vanity Fair is positively begging Hillary Clinton not to run for president again. Take a look at this.
time to start working on your sequel to your book, What Happened? What the hell happened?
Get someone on your tech staff to disable autofill on your iPhone so that typing an F doesn't become Form Exploratory Committee for 2020.
You know, on Anderson Cooper, you were telling him about alternate nostril breathing. You seem really adept. You should try teaching a class.
Take more photos in the woods. How else are you going to meet unsuspecting hikers?
Take up a new hobby in the new year. Volunteer work, knitting, improv comedy, literally anything that'll keep you from running again.
To finally put away your James Comey voodoo doll. Now, we all know you think that James Comey cost you the election, and he might have, but so did a handful of other things. It's a year later, and time to move on.
So cheers to you, Hillary Clinton.
Cheers to you, Hillary.
Cheers to you, Hillary Clinton.
I hope they didn't pay big money for those jokes. Wendy, liberals are going nuts over this. I mean, people are saying it's time to burn copies of Vanity Fair, that so-called progressives have no business telling an accomplished woman that she needs to take up knitting, that that's sexist. But you do get the sense, though, that Democrats are moving on from Hillary.
Yeah, I think Democrats are moving on from Hillary. I think that the uproar came because we have individuals who ran for presidency like John McCain, like Mitt Romney. And, you know, we did not see this type of uproar for them to leave it. This is a woman that, yes, she did not win the vote. Yes, we know that she's not the president of the United States. But to use such language and say take up knitting, this is her life's work. She's the Secretary of State. She's the first female to run for office for a major political party. And then to say to take up knitting, no, she has built a body of work and she doesn't have to be president, but she can continue to extend her political realm.
Well, what's killed her? Is it the fact that in the midst of this book tour, Harvey Weinstein and Charlie Rose and Matt Lauer came along and recast her husband and their marriage in a new light? Is that part of the problem here?
I don't think that that necessarily killed her because she didn't win the vote. It didn't help her by any means, especially that photo going around of her and Harvey Weinstein looking very, very chummy and comfortable. That didn't help her. But again, to sit there and say that she should take up knitting when she has done a lot in the political realm is not, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Do you regret that your party, Progressive Party, wants to shatter the glass ceiling, as Canada, Britain, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, on and on and on have done, but it chose the wife of the previous president? Isn't that a little bit... You say she's an accomplished woman?
She is.
Her main accomplishment is that she was the wife of the guy who held the job before.
You see, and that in itself is sexist, right? That's not her major accomplishment. She was the Secretary of State. She is the first woman to run on a major political party, and she got that vote. So that's not her major accomplishment, that she's the wife of Bill Clinton. By all means, no, she's done other things. Was she the best candidate for our party? No, she was not. However, to say that her major accomplishment was being a wife, that's what we talk about when we say sexism in the political sphere.
Okay, I stand reprimanded, Wendy. France is...
but certainly had a rocky relationship with public opinion, but his difficulties haven't done anything to make people think better of Hillary Clinton, which is kind of weird. A new Gallup poll shows Clinton approval rating at 36%, an all-time low, while disapproval has hit 61%. That's an all-time high. What is going on here exactly? Something bigger, perhaps? Julie Alvin is digital editor at Time Inc., and she joins us tonight. Julie, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So what I find so striking about these numbers, and I really feel, I don't want to pile on Hillary Clinton. She lost. That's enough punishment, as far as I can tell. But I think this may say something bigger and more interesting about the country. Her numbers among women are much worse than you would think for someone who is the self-described champion of all women. A lot of women don't like Hillary Clinton. Why is that?
I can't necessarily answer that question. I think it depends on who you're talking to. So, you know, if you're looking at these polls specifically, it showed that there was a drop from 79 to 78% among Democrats who were taking this poll, and the poll among Republicans was from 11% to 5%. So I don't know if, you know, the number of women who support Hillary Clinton is really the issue here, and really more that this is split across party lines, and I have a lot of thoughts on why that.
Well,
might
no,
be.
that is definitely true. Of course, it's a party line thing. It always has been. But her numbers among women are soft. She's been asked about it repeatedly. She lost women under 30 to Bernie Sanders, you remember, in the primaries. She lost married women in the general. And she was asked over at MSNBC the other day, why is that? And she said, and I'm quoting, I think they, women, are publicly disrespecting themselves. I don't know what their own, I don't think they know what their own arguments are.
Well,
in other words, they're too silly to know that I'm a great person. Isn't that kind of patronizing?
I mean, I've heard this argument from Fox News hosts many times that when Hillary Clinton says that, women didn't vote in their best interest by voting for Donald Trump, and I certainly agree with her on that point. I think that saying that her approval ratings among women are low doesn't necessarily mean that the approval ratings of Donald Trump are then high for those same women. So, there are certainly things that Hillary Clinton has skeletons in her closet. She has been criticized most specifically by Donald Trump and the GOP and this network in particular over and over again.
Hold on, Julie, we're not talking about, Fox is one among many, many networks. And I know that it's this thing where, if it's Fox's fault, okay, but
I don't think
the majority of married women voted against her, and unfortunately, they're not all our viewers.
Well,
so here's my question: if you said, women are doing this, and I said, the thing about women is they just don't know what's in their own interest. They just don't understand what they say. You would look at me and say, "Wow, that's patronizing, maybe even sexist." Why is it okay when Hillary says that about women?
Well, I think that she was right in saying that women who voted for Donald Trump are voting against their own interests, given the fact that Donald Trump has a history of bragging about, alleged sexual harassment against women, given that a lot of the programs that he's put in place, from the minimum wage from advocating for not as high of a minimum wage to the health care bill, are things that would disproportionately affect women. So that's my view. That's also proven out by fact.
Well, no, it's not. These are obviously subjective statements that you're making. They're not factual statements. But let me just ask you, don't adult women have the right to decide what they think is best for them without being patronized by liberals?
They absolutely have the right to make the decisions that they believe are best for them. But I think that you could also say in this election that a lot of rural low-income people actually voted against their interests in voting for Donald Trump because, the health care bills that he would propose and the tax bill that's going through are things that are going to disadvantage them. So, you can say this is sexist, you can say this is elitist, but it really, if you actually look at the policies that are in place, a lot of these do disadvantage women, they disadvantage low-income people, and they disadvantage people who voted for Donald Trump. I don't think that that's patronizing. I think that it's true.
Well, it might be worth meditating on why they did that. Maybe if you think the other people hate you because they don't like your skin color or your gender or where you live, maybe that kind of wrecks the deal for you. You're not going to vote for someone you think hates you. I think that's true for both sides. But let me ask you this. Hillary's book tour kind of went on forever. I think my guess is these numbers are going down because she's been doing all these media appearances trying to sell this book. She's incredibly rich already. Why do you think she had to go on the world's longest book tour and try to sell this book beyond the point that people really wanted to buy it? What was that about?
I don't think that it was beyond the point that people wanted to buy it. I know a lot of people were really hungry to sort of learn what lessons she took away from this election. And what I really want to know is, why are we talking about Hillary Clinton's approval ratings? I want to talk about Donald Trump's abysmal approval ratings.
I bet you do, but Hillary Clinton kind of thrust herself. Look, if Hillary Clinton wants to, move to Barbados and, do whatever Hillary Clinton does in her spare time, that's fine with me. But Hillary Clinton placed herself at the center of public attention for almost a year trying to sell this book. And so I think it's fair to respond. I don't think I'm a Hillary obsessive or hater or anything like that. She's jumping around trying to be relevant.
She wrote
Why is
a
it
book.
bad to have an opinion on that?
She's not a public figure. She's not in public office. Why does she even have approval ratings? She's a civilian. I just don't understand. And I also don't think that, this is the most watched cable news network in the country, and I don't think that, you guys can spend a lot of time inordinately bashing Hillary Clinton and then wonder why people don't like her.
I'm actually not bashing her, but let me just ask you one final question, okay? And I don't want to be mean. But can you think of a single interesting or insightful thing Hillary Clinton has ever said? I've covered her since 1992, and I have never heard one. Have you?
Yes, I can think of many interesting and insightful things. And
hit me with one
things.
profundity. I promise I'll let you. What let you deliberate?
Well, I think that the fact that she acknowledged in her book various reasons that came to light about why she wasn't elected, including accounting for her own tactical mistakes, as well as accounting for some of the sexism that was leveled against her in the campaign, as well as accounting for, the nationalism and populism that the Donald Trump campaign, played into. I think there was a lot of insight in that book. And you ask about the book tour, and I was somebody who wanted to read that book. I wanted to know what happened. I want to know why Donald Trump is our president. I want to know.
I could have told you. Sexism. I've watched her a long time. I knew that was going to be the answer. You should have called me, and I could have saved you.
That's not the answer, but we don't call male politicians shrill and unlikable, so it definitely played a part.
I don't know if they are shrill and unlikable. I'd be happy to. And there are who are shrill and unlikable, and I'd be happy to say.